Psychologist John Money is the man who coined the term gender identity, as well as sexual orientation, but few outside of academia are familiar with him because if the general public knew that the man who kickstarted the gender revolution literally endorsed pedophilia, then people would start to question the left's whole plan. I'm not going to get into the details because it'll make you puke, but you can look up John Money and read his views about 10-year-old boys for yourself if you could stomach it. And while you're at it, if you have some Pepto-Bismol handy, look up Harry Hay, who is the father of the gay rights movement, and you'll see his views were exactly the same. And he was a member of NAMBLA, and that's not hyperbole, he really was. It used to be pretty easy to determine who was a man and who was a woman, even from a distance, even if you had bad eyes and didn't have your glasses on. Not just from the shape of people's faces and bodies, but also from the way they dress, walk, and even sound. The different styles of clothes that men and women wear and use of makeup stem from the basic biological differences between the two sexes. For example, women want to emphasize youth and health, so they use makeup to cover up flaws in their skin. Eyeshadow gives the impression of larger eyes, which gives the appearance of youth, while the foundation smooths the skin and covers up imperfections, aging spots, and wrinkles. Women wear high heels because they cause them to stick out their butts and walk in a sexually provocative way in hopes of more easily influencing men to give them what they want. They obviously show cleavage for the same reason, and this is also why women wear sleeveless shirts and skirts in the middle of winter while men dress appropriately for the cold weather. They know that we're suckers for a beautiful woman, so they show off the goods as much as possible. Because of our biological differences, men and women not only dress differently, but we think differently, we act differently because we are different. We tend to work different kinds of jobs, we have different demeanors, and we fill different roles in society. Men work dangerous and dirty jobs year-round braving the elements, while women tend to prefer safer, cleaner jobs indoors. Historically, men would venture out into the wilderness to hunt for food, while women would stay home to raise the kids and cook meals. Since a pregnant woman can't chase down a wild animal to kill for dinner as easily as a man, for obvious reasons, hunting was something that men did. And we're physically stronger, which suits us for such grueling tasks. But in the backwards world of liberalism, every tradition and social norm is being turned upside down. So boys are encouraged to wear skirts, and women are pressured to not shave their legs and armpits as symbolic rejections of the traditional gender roles. But it's even worse than that, as I'm sure you're aware. There is a growing trend of people completely rejecting the fact that they are a man or a woman and are demanding that we refer to them by gender-neutral pronouns in place of the usual he or she. Instead, these people want to be called they or them or Z or Zir. And instead of being called Mr., Mrs., or Miss, they now want us to use the gender-neutral title of MX, pronounced Mix. Some of these people are even teaching elementary school and post videos on TikTok giving updates about how they're teaching first graders that girls can be boys and boys can be girls, or they can be neither, and that's what all the cool kids are doing. Many ridiculous social trends start with kids because they can easily be manipulated and convinced of almost anything in the name of rebelling against society, but it's not just high school and college kids who are getting confused about whether they're a man or a woman. There is increasing pressure on parents and teachers to stop referring to children as boys or girls altogether and instead raise them as gender neutral with no gender at all. The very term gender shouldn't even be used for anything, but Marxists decided to start using it in place of sex in order to purposely obfuscate and confuse people. And now they're arguing that we should reconsider assigning, as they say, babies boys or girls at birth and raise them all gender neutral because they might be transgender. Or they might not want a gender at all. They're trying to convince people that there is no correlation between a child's obvious physical characteristics or even their chromosomes and what sex they are. And the children should be raised as neither until they grow up and decide if they want to be a boy or a girl or one of the other 57 supposed different genders the Marxists have created. At the beginning of the 2016 school year, over 5 years ago now, teachers in Charlotte, North Carolina were told to stop addressing their students as either boys or girls and instead refer to them as students or scholars because some of them might be transgender or gender non-conforming and might not be comfortable being treated as a boy or a girl. The following year, in 2017, Planned Parenthood, best known for being the largest killer of babies in the history of the human race, published their recommendations for parents on how they should teach their preschoolers about gender, wanting parents to teach their kids that genitals don't make them a boy or a girl and that they can be whatever they want. Yes, instead of teaching kids their ABCs, Planned Parenthood wants them to learn about the LGBTQs. Many celebrities have jumped on the gender-bending bandwagon since they're always on the forefront of moral decay. The largest gay lobbyist organization in the United States, calling themselves the Human Rights Campaign, whose symbol is the yellow equal sign over a blue background, you've probably seen it on bumper stickers, published a back-to-school guide encouraging school administrators to avoid using gender to divide and address students, and says instead of addressing the class using boys and girls, they should use words like friends, students, or scholars. A graduate student in Canada was investigated by school authorities after she played a clip of the now retired University of Toronto professor Jordan Peterson discussing his stance on gender pronouns. Peterson famously refused to use pronouns other than he or she and didn't care which of the 57 other different gender identities a student wanted to be called. He would only call them by the one that corresponds with their biological sex. But refusing to bow down to the requests of the gender benders is now considered to be hateful and dehumanizing, and will get you banned from social media platforms if you call somebody by the wrong pronoun. Seriously, that's a violation of the terms of service. It's called misgendering them. Numerous leftist organizations are encouraging nursery schools and elementary schools to, quote, queer up the education system by reading the children books that encourage them to question or experiment with their gender. One of the books is titled Introducing Teddy, which is about a teddy bear named Thomas who decides he's a girl instead of a boy. Other books include Jacob's New Dress and Sparkle Boy, which encourage boys to wear dresses. Sadly, few child psychologists or Republican members of Congress or conservative pundits in the media have denounced this kind of indoctrination in schools until very recently, which is obviously designed to confuse kids into thinking that maybe they should try being a girl instead of a boy. And if they wanted to do that, that would be no different than styling their hair different. Young children, as you know, believe that a fat man in a red suit magically climbs down their chimney in their house with a sack of toys every Christmas and then flies away on a sleigh pulled by magic reindeer. At a young age, they can be taught to believe anything, and the reason that normal parents shield their children from certain ideas and images when they're young is because they're too little to understand them, and if exposed to such things too soon, they'll end up engaging in inappropriate, unhealthy, and dangerous behavior because they won't understand the ramifications of what they're doing. If you like my serious monologues like this, then you should really read my books, because that's where you'll find my full and uncensored research and analysis. Unless Amazon bans them, which someday they might. So order my book, Liberalism Find a Cure, or The True Story of Fake News, or Hollywood Propaganda, How TV, Movies, and Music Shape Our Culture, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebooks from Kindle iBooks, Nook, or Google Play. And of course, there's a link to the Amazon listing in the description below, so click it and head on over there and check them out.